Welcome, everybody. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List, and we're glad you joined us today. And today we continue with another interview in our series sponsored by the Bridge Alliance, which we call Repairing America's Broken Democracy. And most of us agree that we have a little bit of work left to do in that regard. And we're thrilled today to have as our guest on the program Reverend Dr. F. Willis Johnson. He is an educator and a spiritual entrepreneur, and he is also the Chief Program Officer for the Bridge Alliance. Dr. Johnson, welcome to our program today.
Good day, thank you.
So, Doctor, tell us, you're the Program Director for the Bridge Alliance. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about the Bridge Alliance and what does the Program Director do, and how you participate in this effort to promote better self-governance and a more lively sense of democracy here.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And yeah, Bridge Alliance is a organization comprised of a network of 100 plus entities and movement related activities and action groups or agents who are looking at how do we further healthy self-governance. And they fall into a very expressive offering of how to do that, whether that's in electoral reformation, whether that's in what we like to call as deliberative engagement, or across different various forms of difference or uniqueness as it relates to bridging or deliberative dialogue, whatever the case may be. Their energies and their efforts are focused around making sure that we have, as best as possible, a healthy and, even more importantly, a representative governance or self-governance in our country. And obviously, we usually shorthand that with democracy and democrative or civic and social engagement. And my hope and my energies and responsibilities on behalf of Bridge Alliance is to find unique ways to help not only our network or membership of organizations in Bridge Alliance, but across the field of deliberative democratic engagement, help them experience what I think are the best ways to grow and learn from each other, as well as to find ways to innovate and to improve and even scale the nature of our work and overcome the issues in the work. So that's a broad stroke. I mean, more specifically, I help to both design and run and facilitate various forms of programming, such like our mastermind cohort, which is where we bring practitioners and the alike together in a peer to peer kind of cohort style learning experience. And we tackle difficult issues or respective issues to their work and to the field. And together they learn, they glean, they discover, and they deploy new ideas and new possibilities respective to their work and collective to the field. I also am kind of tasked with helping both our internal organization and the field look at bettering its efforts around diversifying, including, creating equitable and respectful belonging, so that our government, I should say our government and expression, as well as our governance of ourselves and with each other, is fully representative of the landscape of this nation. And that takes form in identities, that takes forms in ideology, that takes form in geography. We have unique differences as well as unique gifts. And my task and our hope is that we help to make this center to our work and fully embracive and embodied in not only the spirit, but in the actualizing and in the realizing of what it means to be a healthy democracy.
No, that's wonderful. In fact, you saved me from asking you a question. I was going to ask you about your efforts with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you talked about that. What's the focus of your work today, essentially, as we speak?
Well, as an organization, we have ourselves evolved into understanding what ought be the role and what can be the possibilities when we have a fully representative kind of expression and participation in this in the not only the professional kind of field that we help to shepherd, but really what does it mean for us to model as best as possible the democrative aspiration that all means all, and that each and every citizen and individual be not only represented well, but be as they wish to be fully participatory. We have gone from helping to message and bring to light this important dimension. We have also evolved into finding ways to be intentional about inviting not only our membership, but those who are interested in this idea and this work to become engaged. And so that's where our programmatics efforts have really served well. We have an annual kind of diversity report or an indexing of our membership and of the field that we produce each year, which has helped us to understand what we thought and knew to be, which was that this was not as fully representative and participatory as we had hoped, but yet we are making gains and encouraging gains. And we see new emergent organizations in this work that are not only younger and skewing, not only younger, but skewing to be more racially, ethnically, culturally diverse, as well as ideologically, across age and stage and other forms of uniqueness. We have been able to help to encourage that and track that in our field. We've also been in light of many of the more recent occurrences in our nation, we've been instrumental in helping to encourage what it means to fully commit, not just in word, but in deed, and even in investment. And so we've been very encouraged by the efforts that we not only partner with, but that we lead as it relates to forming collaborative relationships and partnerships so that we're building up catalytic or indigenous leaders across the country. So our work in an equity justice fund and a community foundation initiative is helping us to, in place, in context, working with collaborative partners, working with investment partners. We are literally fueling the development and the support of particularly BIPOC leaders and organizations and social enterprises that are about the business of bringing forth healthy self-governance and making it representative in across many domains. So my task is to find and help us spark new ideas to help to initiate innovative and exploratory ways to practice this, because Bridge Alliance offers a unique perspective. We are an intermediary. We serve well those who are very specific in the nature of their work, very direct and engaged in the forms in which they champion, and who will value insight, new information, and innovation, but don't necessarily have the bandwidth or the space and the resource to do it themselves. We help to kind of incubate and encourage that or sponsor that through our work and our programming. And as a result, it makes the field and the landscape and the tide rise, so to speak, for all of us who are trying to navigate these waters.
Very, very well put, very articulately put. Willis, you mentioned a moment ago, responding to the events of the day. So I can't help but ask you how, for example, is your work affected by the horrific events in Buffalo, New York? Does that encourage you to do more? Share with me how that impacts the democracy work in which you're involved.
Yeah, well, David, I kind of entered this space and in this kind of work because of unfortunately some of my response and participation in light of a very tragic and kind of civil disturbance of sorts when I was in Ferguson, Missouri, and the work that we tried to do with bringing kind of divergent kinds of audiences and persons around things that were political, that were polarizing, that were threatening and violent. We kind of begin to have noticed the fact that what we were doing was bridging, or that, you know, the things we were advocating for were about the reform and the revitalizing of what ought to be, what I think are inalienable rights and constitutional or communal and socially agreed upon, you know, premises, understandings of what should be right and just, and all this has given way to or was encouraged, and we didn't have the naming for it, or we didn't give category to it like we do now formally, or I do now in my work through Bridge Alliance. But like so many people in so many places, it's in these types of crises, in these types of tragedies and traumas, that many times it reveals an opportunity for us to maybe have the conversations we haven't had, to respond or acknowledge what is not right or righteous in our communities. This is a time where communities like Buffalo and others, like the one in places that I've lived and went to previously, these are the times where people need to have their humanity, their dignity, and the sanctity of what it means to be not only a person, but a citizen in this country affirmed. And then, of course, we're called to take some action. We're called to activate and to create. And so instances like Buffalo and other places, for various reasons around race, as we've seen in Pittsburgh and in recent times, and other places around out of disrespect and fear of others' religious practices, and what we see happening across people with other who identify in other indigenous and in unique ways, whether it be our Asian American brothers and sisters. The reality is that polarization in this country of so many dimensions is not only a challenge, but it's becoming catastrophic in terms of its effects. And now more than ever, we need organizations and we need entities that are willing to invite people into the work, whatever that may mean, respective to their community, respective to their interests, respective to their situation. And it is not only needed, but it's necessitated out of the fact that that is what we are invited and we are inalienably gifted with when we live in a democratic society. And Bridge Alliance is just trying to help encourage that as best as we can.
Well, once again, good for you. Let me just ask you to perhaps quickly respond. Any particular program of importance? What's up next for the Bridge Alliance that we should pay attention to?
Well, I think you should stay on the lookout for our Community Foundation initiative, where we want to come into communities across the country and making not only monetary commitments and investment, but also bringing in resource and relationships with collaborative partners, hoping to not only scale the opportunities for BIPOC plus and uniquely diverse people, but to look at how we build leadership, catalytic leadership that's representative across this country. We're also excited about what we're doing with the intentionality of helping to bring organizations and strengthen them in this work and build the field in terms of its consciousness and its standard and its consensus around how to get stronger, better for a better and healthy democratic society. That's what we're doing, and we can't do it without your help and your participation. So we invite you to join us in this important work of bridging here in the U.S.
Well done. And how can our viewers reach out to you, Reverend Johnson?
Oh, yeah. Well, go out in all forms of social media. Find us on our website at bridgealliance.us. Or, you know, if you're crazy enough, just Google one of our names like F. Willis Johnson or David Nevin, the other David Nevins or somebody. But really, our website and our socials are the best way to catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and whatever else is hip and hype and popping right now. I don't think we're on TikTok yet, but we're on our way.
I'm sure, I have no doubt. Dr. Johnson, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. David.
This has been David Nevins for Citybiz List, and another of our conversations under the auspices of the Bridge Alliance, which we call Repairing America's Broken Democracy. Thank you so much for joining us today.